Taking steps towards death. In the late 1960s and throughout the early 80s, psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross interviewed dying persons and their caregivers. From her research, she concluded that people pass through 5 basic steps as they move closer to death. You may also be familiar with these steps as the 5 stages of grief. This is the first stage of dying. People refuse the idea that they are dying. Often they will persist that some test was wrong or their doctor is simply wrong. Refusing to believe, denial is known as a defense mechanism that allows the person to absorb the news of their dying on their own terms and allow the reality to exist within them. In the second stage, the person becomes angry, often questioning why they must die and not someone else. Who they are angry with can vary from person to person. Some may get mad at those in good health. Others may get mad at the physician that delivered the news of their death. Others may turn to their religion and become mad at their God. As with any angry person, they become irrational and may say or do things in fits of anger that they do not mean, until their temper has cooled and they move on to the next step. When this step is reached, the person will begin making promises of, just let me live long enough to ... or I will change my ways if I'm granted to live longer. It is believed, though, that if a person were to somehow achieve this final wish, such as, let me live long enough to see my grandchild born, and if they do happen to live that long, they will just find a new wish and will carry on this way until they move to the next step. Have you ever come to the end of a really great book series? For years you have waited to read the next adventure of a beloved character, but once the final line is read and you realize it's over, when your heart sags and you need just a moment to take it all in? Of course, this is a dramatic simplification of depression in the dying person, but the feelings and thoughts are very much the same. You realize there's nothing you can do to change it, that it's out of your hands, and so you reflect on the loss, think of the past, contemplate what you might have done differently. Like the ending of a book, death is inevitable. And thus we conclude to acceptance. In the previous stage, the person may have accepted the inevitability, but in the depression stage, they grieve for themselves. With acceptance comes an unemotional peace. As death comes nearer, they have no desire to fight it and seem content to allow their end to come.